Okay, folks, we're live.
Great. And good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting. My name is Tim Ormond, and I'm serving as chair. This is our November 15th, 2023 meeting. All committee members and staff are participating virtually. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. The public had an opportunity to provide public comment via email or voicemail. Any comments submitted have been provided to committee members and will be linked in the meeting minutes. We also have an option for the public to provide live public comment over the phone through the phone number listed on the engagement hub, which is linked on the committee webpage. On today's agenda, there will be opportunities to provide public comment. For those of you with us today, including all of our adoring fans in TV land, we welcome you. I will now go through and introduce all committee members who are participating virtually. Please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, use the raise hand button or unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your phone after you are done speaking. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. All right, Alicia Goldstein.
Good afternoon.
Joel Osgood.
Hello, thank you.
Michael Totten.
A quick hello.
So literal. Steve Barron, Vice Chair.
Hi.
Ashley Case.
Hello, everybody.
And our two newest members, Christy Holbert.
Everyone.
And Justin Young.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you. And do we have Maggie Ellman, our City Council liaison today? If not, I would like to introduce our staff members. Bridget Herring.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Bridget. Kiara Boulan.
Hi, everybody.
And do we have anyone else?
Yep, this is Sophie.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Sophie.
That's okay. Sophie Molinak's here, and I just saw Maggie join too.
Sorry about that, Sophie. My office is a little dark today. And welcome, Councilwoman Ullman as well.
Hey, I'll probably be off video, but I'm here.
All right. Well, to help everyone in our audience follow along, I will state each section of the agenda aloud and do a vocal roll call for each vote. Okay, and our agenda today, our first item is approval of our October minutes, and hope that you all had a chance to study them in great depth. Are there any questions or comments on our October meeting minutes? Going once, twice, thrice. If that's the case, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the October minutes? Alicia, would you like? Alicia?
I can make a motion. Yes, I can make a motion to approve the October meeting minutes.
Thank you, Alicia. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Joel. And now we will go around the Zoom, and if you're in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye. And if you're opposed, please say nay. Alicia Goldstein.
Yay.
Joel Osgood.
Yay.
Michael Totten.
Aye.
Steve Barron.
Aye.
Ashley Case.
Aye.
Sophie Molinak.
Aye.
Christy Hurlbert.
Aye.
Justin Young.
Aye.
And I am also an aye. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Okay, that takes us to item number 2, which are updates, and we have no updates. So swiftly, we move on to old business number 3. And the first item, 3A, is approval of chair and vice chair. Tim Ormond and Steve Barron. As many of you know, it was a hard-fought re-election campaign, and a lot of money was spent, and a lot of donations to my super PAC. But I think the way this procedure works is I'm supposed to turn this over to Steve Barron to make a motion for the chair.
In this case, it's the super SAC, Tim.
Super SAC. That's right. Very good. You beat me on my own game.
Tim, actually, if we could, if you want to start by asking if there's any nominations.
Oh, okay.
If anybody's had a change of heart between now and then you can, depending on what happens in that call to action, we can approve Steve first and then turn it over. So if you want to first just check in on any other folks interested or nominations for the vice chair and chair position.
All right. Bridget Herring is here. It sounds like she might be interested in the chair or vice chair positions. And if not, are there any outsiders, newcomers, spoilers? And if not, I guess I could make a motion for Steve Barron as vice chair for the next year. Or can I do that, or should somebody else do that?
You can do that.
Okay.
You just can't do yourself.
All right. I will do that. Michael?
Are you seconding, Michael? You're on mute.
I second the motion.
Great. So all in favor, I guess we go around and, all right. So the motion is to appoint Steve Barron on his second term as vice chair. We'll go around. Alicia Goldstein.
Aye.
Joe Osgood.
Aye.
Michael Totten.
Aye.
Ashley Case.
Aye.
Sophie Molinax.
Aye.
Christy Hurlbert.
Aye.
Justin Young.
Aye.
And me, after much deliberation, am also an aye. So the ayes have it. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you all. Is it my turn?
I think so, yeah. Be kind.
Okay.
No whammies.
Yes. All right. Well, having the gavel handed over, I won't skip to another item. I will ask if anyone wishes to make a nominating motion to elect Tim as chair for the next new term. Ashley?
I'll elect Tim or nominate Tim for the chair for the next term.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll do roll call. When I call your name, give me either an aye or a no. Michael.
Aye.
Ashley.
Aye.
Justin.
Aye.
Sophie.
Aye.
Alicia.
Aye.
Joel.
Aye.
Christy.
Aye.
I think that does it. And it's unanimous. And I hand the gavel back to the chair.
Thank you, everybody. I feel the love and appreciate another term with you all. It's going to be fun. So that takes us to our next very important item, which is discussion of our 2023 draft annual report. And hopefully everybody has had a chance to read it and give some input and meet with Bridget and Kiara. So we could do this in different ways. I think it might, just because there's a lot of content in here, it might be worth just opening up for questions rather than having me or somebody else read it. But if you'd like, we could also go through kind of line by line or section by section. Essentially, it describes what each of the working groups accomplished and then what our goals are for next year. All right, Steve Barron.
I just wanted to suggest, I think it would be helpful to go section by section at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, happy to do that. Can we bring it up on the screen, Bridget or somebody? All right, I can see it. It's getting bigger. Very good. It starts with a summary statement of basically what we're doing and how we're doing it with our working groups, and talks about what we've done through our retreat. And Steve, I'd be happy to turn the gavel over to you, or whatever you need turned over.
No, just a detail on the summary. Am I mistaken, or on that middle line where we say the committee established priorities, shouldn't that be for 2024?
So that was just the first sentence is a recap of what happened in 2023. And then the
Right.
second sentence talks about what our new priorities are for 2024. You're right. It should say
Right.
2024 in the fourth line down. You're right.
Right, that was my point. And yeah. And then on that same line, I guess, this is nitpicky, but I think it might be better to use the word established revised priorities, since they're not new. We're keeping stormwater and green infrastructure, and we've just broken out community resilience into we've taken one piece out, waste, and then incorporated or consolidated energy and carbon into it. So I think this is a detail I don't feel strongly, but established revised priorities might be helpful.
What about just established priorities?
Fine, good, yeah.
Okay. My work is done for today. Okay. Should we go down to the next section? Mission statement, that's pretty clear. We know what that is. Accomplishments. I had read through the stormwater and green infrastructure and thought it was thorough and accurate. I don't know if Joel and Alicia have any comments on that since it came first. There was one.
And this is pretty similar to what we did at the retreat. So they were also in the meeting minutes and then kind of copied over here.
Yeah. There's one bullet point where lift should be all caps, I think, because it's an acronym. And Steve has his hand up.
Am I on? Yes. Yeah, on the second to last bullet point, committee members met. There's a capital M there, but I think that I'm sorry, above it. Yeah, make that a small M. But wait a minute. I'm looking at my hard copy sheet, make sure it's the same. Community members met with yeah. Isn't that, do we need that line at all? Isn't that captured by the next bullet point, Romanet 2?
Yeah,
Or are those different?
yeah, I had that question too. I think,
So you took that line, took that bullet out. It seems to make sense.
Was that too fast?
that was fast.
Sorry. I can put it back in if you want to see it.
Yeah, that was fast, Bridget.
Sorry.
But I
Too
think
quick.
it's true for both of those bullet points, correct? That they were sort of repeated in different ways. The LIFT grant with TDA. Does that seem repetitive? Joint working group chairs met. Okay. So we'll take both of those out. All right. Good. We're just like slicing and dicing today, cutting our word count down. On to community resilience. How does that look to our working group? No objections. We'll go to energy and carbon. No comments, then whoever's in our other group. Or everybody can comment on this one. That looks accurate to me. So this right here, Bridget, I had some maybe questions of how, you know, there are some explicit directions here, and then I wasn't sure how they were either captured in the following lists.
So my recommendation would be that we jump down to the goals, because that was something that was talked about in the working group. These were ones that I tried to generate for discussion today based on your goals and what I knew about potential active projects that were happening in the city. And so maybe we should go to the goals and then have a discussion about that part, since we didn't really get to do that in the small group setting.
Sure. Okay, so the goals are primarily going by working group, I guess, starting with waste, and then community and climate resilience. So any comments on, I guess it's 1 through 4 are the waste goals. Anyone from waste feel like it's adequate? Anything missing, Steve?
Oh, just for clarification, that the waste group came up with these, and I think is happy with them. And if anybody else has questions about them or suggestions, that would be, I think, the only thing left on the table.
Yeah. Any comments on 1 through 4?
I can just comment. I think we took the what would we say at the retreat? You know, busting through barriers, breaking silos, busting silos. We took that to heart in the waste group. So that was kind of the theme that we tried in terms of like wanting to collaborate, you know, with so many different groups that are kind of working to make our local community reduce waste and repurpose you know, everything from clothing and textiles to, you know, the food reduction. So that was the lens we used.
Great. So there's clothing that's captured in here?
No, those were kind of the thoughts behind this.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of, you know, what that means to collaborate, you know, everything, particularly that number 4, what are the initiatives that we could look at, you know, in terms of the city around waste reduction, repurposing, reuse, repair, all of those items, all of those R's before it gets to just get rid of.
Yeah. So that's to be determined. That's part of what you'll be working on. Great. Yeah, I've heard the clothing is kind of a tough one. It's going to get turned into insulation, or I don't know.
But luckily, Ashley's got a lot of great ideas.
Oh, good. All right, kind of a subdued mood today, but we'll go to the next section, which is 5 through 9, I guess. Anything from our community resilience or comments on that from anyone who was not involved? Or anything that needs to be expanded on? Steve?
I'm always good for a typo or two. In 5, I think the word "and" on the first line comes out.
Yeah. Good eye, Steve.
And this is a exceedingly fine, questionable point that will be near and dear to Sophie's heart. Down on 8, hyphenating Asheville and Buncombe. At least that's consistent with what the forthcoming presentation has. That's all I have.
Always looking out, Steve. Thanks.
Yes, can always count on Steve for a good hyphen. All right. We'll keep going down the list. We're getting into our stormwater green infrastructure. One thing that seemed to be missing from our goal list was continued support of the Asheville stormwater fee study. I don't know if that was.
Yeah, we can add that. I just honestly, I copy and pasted the goal we had from last year and just put continue instead of establish. So if you want to add more, that's what number. If you want to either add more to number 10 or make that a separate item.
I think, number 10, because it's that partnership with, I guess they're changing their name slightly. It used to be.
That's the new name. Yeah.
It was ARC, now it's Abrick. They could put Buncombe first and then it would be Bark. That would be easier to.
You should have told Ann when you had the chance.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been a great improvement. Just kidding. It'd be funnier.
Woof woof. Yeah, so I think that partnership, it has some broad possibilities, and where the stormwater fee study is kind of specific to that project. So I think it's probably worth another line item. Maybe we could do that as number.
What do you want it to say?
Continue support and input of Asheville stormwater fee study, or whatever the official name of it is. But I can work with you, Bridget, to tweak that a little bit, but that's a good placeholder, I think. Yeah. And then I think the rest of them are great. And Michael has his hand up.
Yeah, is there a way that we can connect, because they're separate items, number 12 now, where we have established a partnership for the tree canopy with the earlier one about urban heat island mitigation, since there is this perennial conflict between trees shading solar panels. And I just don't want them to be in silos, I guess, in these issues. So is there a way of making that explicit, that we bring that to their attention, the separate groups working on that? Or do we just implicitly figure that in both those, the earlier one about Greenworks, I think, was it Greenworks? Urban heat island mitigation measures.
Yeah, so with the urban heat island, is there, as part of the scope or their consideration, the potential conflict between solar panels and shade from trees? Or
yeah, it's just really a process of making sure that one doesn't cancel out the benefits of the other, that they're done in a way that it's a whole integrated perspective. Obviously, if you're going to have shade trees over your house, you're not going to be available for solar PV. But I've seen so many houses around here where they put up solar PV right behind trees, and the salesman apparently is not telling the people that unless they have microinverters on each one of those, they're going to lose all their output. So it's just an informational kind of thing.
yeah. Well, where do you think that best fits in terms of, I don't know?
Well, maybe it's serving a coordination role between heat island mitigation and urban forestry or tree canopy.
Yeah.
I mean, they also, obviously the tree canopy for the streets does serve an urban heat island effect, not only in cooling the city, but particularly with parked cars, they still give off vapor on a hot day, except under trees where it keeps them cooler. And so I just hope that the two groups work together.
Yeah, so.
You want specific language, huh?
Well, yeah, if there are specific connections we could make that would sort of bust the silos and
yeah,
make sure it doesn't just fall through the cracks.
Right. Even if parenthetically noting coordinate with urban heat island or coordinate with tree canopy.
Yeah, like if this is going through Greenworks, maybe that they have their, limits of their scope. And it sounds like Bridget might have some thoughts. And I know, I'm sorry, Ashley and Steve also have hands up.
Sure.
Maybe Bridget first, since you seem to know the most, Bridget.
My suggestion, if Michael, if you're interested, is you or possibly you and some of your members in either an ad hoc group or some of the community resilience folks get together and make a presentation about this that could be presented to the Urban Forestry Commission on one of their meetings, and then potentially at the symposium event that group's going to be helping Greenworks to organize and put on. And that way, that would be like two outlets of information sharing. Does that sound like a good?
It does.
Yeah, great idea. And Steve, you have your hand up?
Did Ashley have something first? She was before me.
I don't know if she's still in the queue.
I was just going to mention, that's a great idea. The more information you can share and give, the better. And also, there seems to be a better understanding around large trees near homes, right? People aren't as apt to plant large or oak seedlings right next to their house as they were in the 40s and 50s, where more of those lower species like dogwood and others. So And then I've recently worked with the tree people at Greenworks, and they seem to have some pretty good understanding of the issues too. But I do agree with Bridget. I think the more information you can share and express concern over, the better. But wanted to reassure that I think they have some basic understanding of that as well.
Thanks, Ashley. Good input.
My turn.
Yep, go for it, Steve.
Yeah. First, is my audio okay? I got some pop-up that said it's not good.
You sound terrific.
Okay. Well, there. This discussion, I was going to say, I'm not so sure that we need to link some of these points together, even though they are linked. I think this goes to, in my mind, this goes to the sort of the larger question of making sure we're doing appropriate silo busting and communicating across groups. And I was going to think about suggesting some language up front in the summary statement about where we talk about reserving even-numbered months to work in small groups, some language, some silo busting type language, but the specific point, and it doesn't have to be in here, but the specific point I wanted to make is that I think it would be very helpful if after small work groups have their bi-monthly meeting to evaluate whether there are any significant developments and share those briefly in a group, in an email to the rest of the group, a one-way communication, of course, because of open meetings requirements. I don't know that needs to be codified or indicated here at all, but I think that would, both in this is illustrative, and I think both in other instances, it would be good to have that kind of a check at the end of each meeting to say, has enough happened, or is there anything significant that we just ought to make sure everybody else knows? And I'm not suggesting make work, if there's nothing worth reporting, don't do it. But again, it's sort of a work committee as a whole. Let's make sure one end is knowing what the other end is doing.
Well said. Michael?
I wanted to move on to 10 and make a comment, unless other people had comments on what I had just raised.
Are people good with number 9?
I wonder if, the word co-benefits, it sort of makes it, I don't want to, is a better word, unfortunately, potential conflict or niches or, because in a way it makes it sound like by putting these together, you're going to get more benefit. Whereas
I think you do benefit from tree planting and on-site solar, but that's why I put design considerations in, because if you do it the right way, you can have both. That's why I put it that way, but we can totally change it.
No, that's fine.
That's what I was taking from what Michael was saying, but maybe I was
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was coordinated. You're right. So there's going to be co-benefits as long as they don't cancel each other out, which I've seen so many examples in years past of that. Hopefully it's becoming more cognizant with more panels going in, more trees being planted.
Do you want to say something like co-benefits and conflicts?
Yeah, I suppose that would certainly raise the issue.
How about on the relationship of tree plants and on-site solar?
Yeah.
That keeps it sort of open.
Neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Interrelationship between.
That's fine too. Or how about co-interrelationship? We're gonna
Coordinated interrelationship.
That's fine.
Okay. So can I raise 10 now? An issue question?
Yes.
So Bridget, thank you for telling at the retreat the telematics presentation that Jeremiah did. to the environment subcommittee, which I looked at, looks really good. I guess the question is Asheville engaged in the pilot program, or is this totally Buncombe County? And how, I guess that's question one. And second is, it was hard to tell if total cost of ownership was a life cycle, fuel and capital cost and operating maintenance. Is that what total capital cost means?
So the presentation you saw was just Buncombe County, so I can't speak to what the cost. I would have to double check with that team in that reference to see what that means. The city has limited telematics, and I think we could add that in the policy recommendations to increase telematics to either all city vehicles or a substantial portion of city fleets to support the green fleet replacement policy. I think that's something we could add in that section if that's the desire of the committee.
That sounds good to me, if it is to everybody else. Because it will also help us, as Jeremiah points out, where to site the charging stations, which is going to be an important issue. But then I would move that we add it unless anybody has a alternative.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to add it up in the policy section and we can review it when we go back to that conversation. Cool.
Yeah. Steve, have a hand up. Michael?
One other aspect of the vehicle purchasing is that under the IRA, you get the biggest tax breaks if you buy American, but you also get a big tax break if you're a municipality for leasing, which can encompass more cars that in fact are cheaper. But I don't know if that can be handled by the city laws for purchasing versus leasing. But I did want to raise that as a point of inquiry. Like 30 to 40% can be recouped in cash.
If you lease?
Yeah. Purchase or lease. But the purchase, it has higher cost electric vehicles in most cases in the United States, not outside. They're much cheaper outside the US. But for example, Tesla's has two models now that are dramatic, as cheap as replacing a car in their class. But they don't get the tax break unless you lease them because they're not made entirely in the United States. But under the lease arrangement, they are considered a U.S. car.
Ashley?
Yeah, I've heard some debates around the leasing versus purchasing those vehicles too. And I guess I would be curious to hear what Asheville City does with their vehicles when they retire them, like if they sell them and are able to make a lot of their cost back that way. And then also, I have personal feelings around leasing and the large corporations owning everything, right? But those are personal feelings around capitalism. And I think that would I just wanted to mention that should be taken into consideration what they do with their vehicles when they retire them. Because don't they sell them in auction?
Yes.
So there's a lot of opportunity to recoup finances in that, and also get more electric vehicles into the marketplace if people are buying them in auction, right, in 5+ years.
Big question is the resale value for combustion cars in another year or so. I think they're going to be much less.
I think maybe we should think about an agenda topic specific to fleet vehicles and electrification. I don't know what else I'm not hearing any other specific recommendations to add here. So that would be my suggestion.
Could you say your suggestion again, Bridget?
Is that maybe we do an offline conversation to collect all the questions and then figure out what the agenda topic is to bring up to speak to it? Because I feel like this is getting a little outside the annual report discussion.
Yeah, and we have a number of weeks before this is submitted, so we can fine tune it. I don't know if it's just a Google Meet delay, but I just got sort of a round of hands raised from sort of dueling hands from Michael and Steve. No, maybe it's just Mike. Steve's hand raised, but he's
unless I misunderstood the conversation, all of this discussion is great and fits comfortably under item 10. So on we go.
Yeah. There was, now that I'm looking at it, number 14, it showed up for our stormwater and green infrastructure group, and it's provide no-cost technical assistance to neighborhood matching grant applicants for projects that support community resilience. And I thought Bridget suggested this, and I thought it was a great idea. And it also brought up a program that was not familiar to me. And I don't know how familiar everyone on SAC is with this program, but it seems like a very valuable resource for our city. And without putting you on the spot, Bridget, is there something you could kind of just summarize the program that you recommended? Because there may be opportunities for other members of SAC to get engaged, not just Alicia, Joel, and myself.
Absolutely. I think this is an opportunity that could be available to anybody on the committee with some subject matter expertise. But the city offers this neighborhood matching grants program, and the idea is to get a group of people that live in a neighborhood together to be able to identify projects that they want implemented on public property and to get some funding for that. And some of these, the applications and the projects can range from a bunch of different things that might not always be directly tied to the environment or climate resilience, but some of them could be establishing community gardens or pollinators or rain gardens or any number of things. And I thought that with the great expertise on this group, if there were applications that were coming in that touched on these pieces, that some of these members might be interested in providing some of your subject matter expertise back to other community members to help lift them up and further their own goals. And so that's what this kind of suggestion is in a nutshell. So I took it to the stormwater and infrastructure group because rain gardens was the thing that bioswales came to mind immediately. But I do think that depending on what the topics are, anybody on this committee might have some really useful consulting and guidance that they could provide some of their fellow neighbors.
Great. Yeah. So this program, I guess the grants are up to $5,000. And it's been going on for a number of years, 5 years or more. And basically neighborhood groups that are established neighborhood groups can apply for these grants for the betterment of their neighborhood. And often they may be lacking technical expertise to implement a project. So we're kind of our desire is to pilot this within our stormwater group, but obviously expand it to everyone who would like to offer their technical expertise on potential projects. I guess we need to determine how we sort of advertise that.
Yeah, so I thought that the stormwater working group could take it on first as kind of drafting up what the scope of the offer is, kind of scope of services offer, and then maybe shop it around to the rest of the group to see if there's any expertise we want to add to this. And then that would be something that the city can put out with the information for the grant application. So applicants would be able to see that this was available to them.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Bridget. I know we've gotten through the end of the list. Do we need to circle back to the what you had highlighted in blue in terms of the different directives? Or is that, did we just kind of skip that?
Yeah, I would like to go back to the policy recommendation section if we don't mind. So basically what I did is looking at your goals and what I know of potential things that are happening, I tried to tie them up with projects or initiatives or something that might be happening in the city with what I saw encompassed in kind of your goals. Some of them, with some previous, might have some more historical context than the members that sit on the Sustainability Advisory Committee today. And so just throwing this out there for you all to consider if you want to support make these types of policy recommendations. I think that's question one. And then I think question two is to think about the equity impact of these policies and kind of have a little decide how many items we have and if we have time to discuss that today or if we need to have a follow-up conversation about that as well. So does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. Open it up for questions, but we have maybe on our agenda 10 or 15 minutes to cover this. We could start, and then if we need more time later, we can always.
Yeah, so I guess the first step is just to look at this and say, do these seem like things you want to recommend? Do these seem in line with your priorities and what you want to see the city advance in terms of sustainability? So there's 7 items on there.
Yeah, I've read through them, and I guess we'll just open it up for any comments, support. Ashley?
Just in number 1, and this might just be the language that's preferred, to use the term may be required. I wonder if it would be more effective to say, will be required, or if it's better to use that language.
Steve.
Ashley, I just I don't know that I would feel fully comfortable saying ahead of time that something will be justified by a study that we haven't seen yet.
Mm.
That's why the softening language is appropriate in my take.
Yeah. I mean, if you even looking at the climate action plan that was done 2 years ago now or so, and it talks about the number of solar panels that will be needed and the number of infrastructure that needs to be put in, but I understand there's not those hard numbers yet. So yeah.
All right. If that's clear enough, we'll go to Alicia.
Okay, for number 2, they're saying that better stormwater, because I don't know what that means. I was gonna say that improves stormwater retention and treatment, so it's a little bit more specific.
And forgive me, Tim. I looked at that too, Alicia. I think the words "that better stormwater" are just extraneous and can be deleted. I thought it was like a typo or something, but I'll be quiet.
That's another idea, if we don't want to actually say what they're trying to target the improvements. So, but to better stormwater, I don't know what that means.
Yeah. I think that would be an improvement to delete that better.
That manage stormwater retention and treatment, or we can just get rid of it and says improvements to the stormwater program.
Through the use. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and even that's fairly generic, but there's no like metrics built into that, but good input. And Justin, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so about number 2, sticking there, looking at it through an equity lens, I feel like it would be good to emphasize heavily impacted areas, because, we can see a lot of green and gray infrastructure going in places where, it looks beautiful. It's in more affluent, wealthy neighborhoods because that's where the resources are. But, if it's really going to make an impact, it needs to be more down in the floodplains, places like the South Side neighborhood.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And
What'd you say? What was the phrase you used?
Heavily impacted areas.
do you think that really conveys the equity lens? Or I'm wondering if we can be even more explicit, kind of like, I don't know, underserved or under-resourced.
Just adopt equitable improvements.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just be direct. Because heavily impacted, that could kind of maybe get swayed in different ways, but so you want to repeat that maybe, Alicia, that how you would tweak that sentence?
I was just saying, if you wanted to go direct, you could just say adopt equitable improvements, make it an adjective.
Okay, yeah, I like that. That's concise and clear. So we can take that last clause out, if that's okay with everyone. Thank you. And I'm not sure the order if Joel or Michael were first, but I'd say whoever. Joel?
Thank you. My comment is on number 3. First and foremost, I was excited to see this, and I love the idea of embedding some climate mitigation and adaptation goals into the UDO. I guess flipping that into a question, is there anything on the horizon that we can help leverage through the stormwater and green infrastructure working group towards teeing something up in this regard? Is there an appetite within development services for looking at the UDO? Just kind of curious about timeline as sort of the first question. So maybe here, and then I guess, well, the second question is more just about how that's implemented, incentivized. Are there density bonuses, grants similar to the Luigi grants, et cetera, that would be sort of infused within that? It's kind of that's a big task, a big ask. But inherently, I was doing a little dance behind the scenes that this seems really impactful and important to try to advocate for this as the SAC.
Well, step one is getting the funding to start the project.
Okay.
And so until that happens, then everything you mentioned is after step one.
Okay.
And so I think this is the way to advocate to get to all those other places.
Okay. So then in theory, the SAC, if we are listing this as a policy recommendation, we could pass a motion at some point in the next year to say like, hey, we would really love to advocate for this.
That's what this is doing.
Okay.
That's what the purpose of this section is so you have an opportunity. All these reports go to City Council. And so this is an opportunity to say what you think council should consider in prioritizing as they go into the next budget process in season. And so this is your way of doing that.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, just impact with developers, builders in the built environment, whether it's in the CBD or if it expands beyond that, how that's organized. So thank you for dropping this in there, Bridget. I'm excited.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah, I heard the feels. So put it out there. And then how this group will be engaged, we want to wait to see how a project is formed to be able to understand that role and that opportunity.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, you all, and Michael.
Yeah, if I go back to one for a second, I'm sorry, but who's doing the comprehensive facilities study?
Creech and Associates is the consultant. Creech and Associates.
Uh-huh.
I had linked, there's been 2 work sessions that I've done for council, one that happened yesterday that talk about the preliminary findings before the report is finalized. So I can send out those links if you'd like to either watch those videos or see the slides. And then, as I mentioned to Steve, once that report is finalized and available, I'll share it with the whole group as well.
Great. And do you know, or maybe I just look at what you're going to send out the links, whether they're looking at doing deep retrofit costs or looking at putting in a digital twin so that you have real-time commissioning of building performance?
So it didn't go to the level of that detail. It did include a facilities condition assessment. There was like a sustainability analysis done on like what the opportunity is for carbon reduction, on-site solar and storage for a number of facilities. That's helping. And then there's like a location analysis and our growth projections, and all of those pieces tie into how we look at a facility to see like if it's adequate. Do we do a deep retrofit? Do we do a replacement because that facility isn't adequate? So it's like all of those different pieces, kind of looking at it from a big picture and then figuring out how do we address all those needs, because that's a long-term planning effort.
And I take it in buildings, does the city lease as well as own, or do they only own?
I think we have one leased, maybe we have 2 leased spaces. It's a very small number.
Okay, great. So in terms of procurement practice policy, they don't need to make recommendations of what should be in what clauses should be in any leased facility.
It's not to that level of detail now.
Okay.
All right, Christy?
Just curiosity on that one, are Asheville City Schools part of that? Is that?
No, we don't do Asheville City Schools. Those are all the money that comes from the state and also from the county, and they're all managed through the county budget.
Got it.
All right, are there any other comments on this section? Steve? You're muted, Steve.
Sorry. Just item 4, what is the fee in lieu fund, and would it be useful to expand the point to include other policies as well, unidentified policies?
So I put this in here, and we talked about this, and this is under your goals section as well, is to work with the Urban Forestry Commission on this. So part of the tree canopy ordinance, the way it's structured is that the cheapest thing to do is to keep your trees, right? Because we're trying to preserve our canopy. The second cheapest thing to do is plant trees to grow canopy. And then the most expensive option is to opt out and to pay into a fund. And so trying to write a policy around how that fund is utilized to increase canopy. And so that's something that is on the near-term horizon within the next year. And so that's why it showed up both in your goals and in this section.
Yeah, got it. And we should just target that specific policy. There are no other policies that we want to embrace, just to confirm.
Not in this moment that I'm aware of, but I think that's why I languaged it to say to reduce urban heat island impact and sequester carbon, because that's what our MCAP, high impact activity, says around that, which I think if an opportunity came up, it would be germane within that, and I would see a role for this group should additional policies arise in that space.
Very good, thank you.
All right, Ashley.
Would someone mind briefly explaining how number 7 kind of helps our goals? And is that focused on monitoring like city buses or all city? I guess I'm curious. It says all city vehicles, but I'm just curious for more elaboration.
I don't know if Michael, you want to talk about that, or you want me to give a summary?
I was writing down notes. I'm sorry. So number 7, the idea behind this, which I think City of Charlotte is probably in North Carolina the most progressive, is that they monitor the telematics, so they identify which cars go how far, and they can tell which cars are in need of priority for replacement, or if they are more expensive to operate and maybe do early retirement. And then at what point are they replacing the combustion engines with electric vehicles, given the fact that we already have some electric vehicle models on the market that have no extra first cost to combustion engines, but they have anywhere from a factor 4 to 8 cheaper operation, maintenance, life cycle costs. So without the telematics, it's difficult to determine that. And secondly, it also helps to identify locational importance so that you could be thinking about where you want to put your charging stations. So it provides good data. And that's just for the total cost of vehicle ownership over its lifespan. But obviously it goes to the core of reducing local pollution, air pollution, and global emissions, which have values associated with them. Although I don't think the city has any shadow pricing on those emissions. I may be wrong on that. In fact, I think the state legislature I think it passed limiting what you can consider as a social cost for carbon at some innocuous level. But that would be the primary reasons. It helps to accelerate to an electric vehicle fleet at this point.
Thank you. That sounds wonderful.
Yep, thanks, Michael. All right. Any other comments on this section? And Bridget, are there other policy sections you want us to talk through, or we're at 4:35 if we want to move on to our new business, we can do that. And
I'd say we should move on to our guests.
Yeah. Okay. Well, today is an exciting day and we have many wonderful guests. The first one is Electrify Asheville Buncombe pilot with Ken Halden and our very own Sophie Monax. I'd turn it over to you all.
Great. And I know Ken was having a couple of internet issues earlier. Is he on? I'm not able to see everybody.
Looks like he is, yeah.
Okay, great. So Ken, I'll take the first half as we discussed, but just signal to me if you are having internet issues. Hi, everybody.
Sounds
You know
good.
me.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'm here with my colleague Ken Halden. We both work for a company called Bright Spaces, and here today to give you a little preview of a pilot program coming to Asheville and Buncombe County next year. So to zoom out a little bit, to provide some context for the what and the why of this pilot program, Asheville and Buncombe County both have fairly aggressive renewable energy goals. Adopting resolutions for 100% renewable energy for municipal operations by 2030 and for the wider community by 2042. And I think in this group, we've mentioned that a strategic plan has been developed for achieving 100% renewable energy for our community with three major pathways. One is to adopt more renewable energy. Another is to adopt energy efficiency measures. And the third pathway is to move toward electrification of our buildings in Asheville, Buncombe County. And so this pilot represents sort of a first stab at helping translate sort of this higher level technical knowledge of what we know we need to do from an energy perspective into speak and programming that the community can access. So next slide. So our vision for this program, we are in a contract with the city and the county under the auspices of the Blue Horizons project to execute a program pilot for electrification. And the aim is to help community members understand the benefits of electrification, particularly for space heating. So the promotion of the adoption of heat pumps is going to be the focus of this pilot. And the reasons for this, we will do lots of educating for homeowners and residents of Buncombe County about the health benefits, the lower utility costs, why we should, go off of fossil fuels in our homes and our businesses, and how people can take advantage of federal incentives through the Inflation Reduction Act toward buying down the cost of heat pumps and then other electric appliances and machines that will be part of this marketplace that we're developing. So as part of this effort, we're developing an online two-sided marketplace for the community members to get connected with educational resources and contractors who can provide the technical expertise and installation of these electric appliances. Specifically, the focus is heat pumps for this pilot. Next slide. And so, as I've said, the goals are to provide education about why we should electrify. What does it mean to electrify? Give a call to action on, this is a pilot program. The city and the county are funding this. There are available incentives to help you plan for and take action to electrify your home. There will be special financing available. We are partnering with the city and the county, and then the newly established North Carolina Clean Energy Fund, which is providing special financing for heat pumps. And the way that's going to translate is there will be participating contractors on this platform who will then have access to financing through the North Carolina Clean Energy Fund. And to reduce the risk of these loan products, Buncombe County is offering a $100,000 loan loss reserve to mitigate the risk of those loans. We will have a way for people to make an energy profile on this marketplace platform to essentially identify folks' demographics, the size of their homes, what fuels their homes use, their desired outcomes, actions they may have already taken, all sorts of things that I should have in front of me, but I don't. But the idea is for them to have a profile and then have easy, clear ways to move along in an electrification journey. So for an example, like I, Sophie Molinax, have an all-electric home already, which is great. And so I can check off certain boxes. So what I don't have is solar energy, and what I don't have is an induction cooktop yet. So there will be sort of, I guess, journey is the right word for it, for people to follow along and get support and education along the way of why they should be adopting these technologies and access the available incentives, whether on the local level or the federal level for adopting those technologies. Next slide. So a large program goal is education. I think I live in a bit of a bubble where people that I interact with a lot do know what electrification means, but I think the average person in Buncombe County may not have a good sense. So we'll be working in collaboration with the Blue Horizons Project, the Community Engagement Committee of the Blue Horizons Project Community Council to identify communication tactics, engagement tactics, and stakeholders through which to spread this message and get the word out about both electrification, the pilot program, different technologies, the Inflation Reduction Act, and just essentially motivate people to become part of this effort and take the action that they can to join the pilot program or take other action that's identified by the Blue Horizons Project. Next slide. Ken, is this yours or is this mine? I'm sorry. Or Kira, are we on slide 5 yet?
Yep, this is slide 5.
Okay, this is my last slide. And Ken, you just let me know or just be silent if I need to keep going, I guess. So we will also provide calls to action. So we've done contractor engagement in the form of a couple of meetings with individual contractors as well as a trade association. And we have released a request for information that we sent to approximately 60 local HVAC and plumbing contractors, asking them approximately 40 questions that ranged from like, what technologies do you install? Do you feel the need for more training to install more heat pumps? Are there any disadvantages to installing heat pumps? What access to financing do you have? How many HVAC systems do you replace or install in an emergency situation? A fun or not so fun fact about and challenge to this kind of work is that many times heating equipment and cooling equipment is replaced in an emergency situation. So if the contractor you call does not have a heat pump available, you may just install another 20-year lifespan gas furnace, when if you had some more lead time or education and planning, you would have been planning for a heat pump to move off of fossil fuels and gas in your home. So the response period for that closed about 5 days ago, and we're sorting through the responses to hopefully build a way to engage and establish partnerships with contractors who are interested in being a part of this pilot. I spoke a little bit about the energy profile that folks will have an opportunity to create on our platform. And then another key feature of this pilot will be low-cost energy audits. So oftentimes, when I advise folks on energy use and what they can do in their own home, the best place to start is to know what you don't know about your own home. So getting a third-party energy auditor to come and identify what are the opportunities in your home and from a diagnostic standpoint. So they'll measure insulation levels, identify air leakage, identify fuel sources, appliances that need maintenance or replacing, and essentially come up with a baseline of where your home is and make recommendations for actions to take to improve the energy efficiency of your home. Next slide, please. Ken, are you with us? I keep seeing him leave and rejoin, so I'm guessing he's having internet issues. So I'm just going to keep going. And Ken, you just cut me off if you come back. So this marketplace platform is in development right now, and I talked a little bit about this, and this is a very busy slide, and so I don't mean to confuse, but there will be a way for participants to access one side of it. There will be the administrator middle side, and then there will be contractors on the other side. And the idea is to connect participants with contractors, as well as the education and energy profile features that I talked about. We envision there will be resource pages on each specific technology, like electric vehicles, heat pumps, induction ranges, heat pump dryers, etc. And on that page, like on a heat pump information page, there will be information in a particular community about any ongoing campaign. So, for example, we're doing this pilot program here in Asheville and Buncombe County. On the heat pump page, there would be, hey, there's a campaign in your community about heat pumps. Go join it or go learn more there. I think that's all I want to say about the platform. I think this is more of the same. So the platform will have, I'll go back, sorry, an education resource library. It'll have features like filterable solution listings, a customer portal profile, a contractor portal. There will be a group purchase feature. So part of what we hope to do is to achieve some pretty good pricing on heat pumps by using some group purchase features and identifying a contractor who's willing to take on, a set number of people and get some good pricing for those heat pumps. There will be reviews of contractors and the ability for customers and contractors to sort of manage their profile. Next slide. So the financing piece of this is pretty unique. There's not many states in the country that have specific clean energy financing. So we're really excited to be partnering with the newly created North Carolina Clean Energy Fund, Melissa Malkin-Weber and Jen Weiss, who are there that some of you may know and have interacted in their past roles, perhaps. Part of the IRA is, of course, there's a lot of tax credits available for things like heat pumps, electric vehicles, and solar panels, but there's also going to be state-level rebates that will be point of sale. That will instantly reduce the cost of a heat pump or I believe a heat pump hot water heater. So that's designed to make the buying decision really easy. So if you're looking at a heat pump versus a gas furnace and there's up to an $8,000 rebate for a heat pump, it becomes sort of a no-brainer economically speaking. And the state level guidance, I believe, is going to be coming out next year sometime, probably in the second half of 2024. And that will also be integrated into our platform as much as possible. Next. The contractor engagement part is also a large goal of the pilot project. So identifying contractors who are willing to and interested in taking advantage of sort of the early adopter type folks who would be good candidates for this pilot program and to further their own experience and education in electrification and heat pump installation. The goals with consumers are to continue engagement along an electrification roadmap and journey. We kind of want to make the platform a sticky platform. If that makes sense to folks, we want people to come to the platform and keep using the platform along many steps. And then reporting out data and analysis on how the platform is performing, how the pilot program is going, the various bill savings, carbon emissions reductions, and other data related to the adoption of heat pumps and within the heat pump pilot program. Next slide. All right. Sorry if that felt a little disjointed there at the end. I was hoping Ken would take it up, but I think he's in a place with poor internet right now, but happy to discuss and take any questions that I'm able to answer.
Thank you, Sophie. It's like Michael has his hand up.
This is outstanding, Sophie, and thank you so much. So exciting. And I have a question on the platform. Do you have a designer expert in user experience, user interface, so that you are getting that stickiness? And I know you have to deal with a whole spectrum of audience, from a neophyte that knows absolutely nothing to a polymath who quickly wants to get right to some brass tacks. And so how do you, that's part of a user experience, is who are you addressing, both beginners and advanced people, and ways to cut into it so that they don't get turned off and don't come back. But I assume that's a big part of what your design is on your platform.
Yes and no. I mean, the goal is to keep the platform fairly simple and straightforward, with links out to well-established resources such as the publications and resources put out by Rewiring America. The stickiness, I think, really comes from being a place where people can go to see what's available locally. And get connected with a contractor to take action for installation of a particular appliance or machine, and then continue on that electrification journey through building out that energy profile part of the platform.
So would they be able to hear other people's, like here where I live in Olivet, we have 2 platforms, and one of them is sharing kind of like good experiences with solar installers or heat pump installers versus those that stay away from, and everything in between. Would there be anything like that available to people?
We hope to have user reviews for sure, and case study examples of say Michael Totten's all electric home, and his experience going all electric, how much more comfortable and healthy he is, his bill savings, etc.
$16 a month for 2.5 years now.
Yeah. We're all so jealous.
Great. I think Alicia was next.
Yeah, I assume this can't be solved because this is for homeowners, but what in terms of like renters or low-income people who may not have control over these decisions, is what resources can help them if they're not making purchasing decisions about the house they live in?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And there are actions to take if you are a renter. The whole suite of options is less accessible than if you were a homeowner, but there's plenty of good resources out there for renters in terms of what's in your hands as a renter, whether that's, if you live in an apartment with a gas stove, there's, $100 induction cooktop that you could use instead. There's guides on like how to talk to your landlord about making some of these changes in terms of energy efficiency, or, there's ways to access renewable energy as a renter through third parties like Arcadia, or Duke Energy has the Renewable Energy Advantage program. So there are ways, they are limited for renters for sure.
Is that going to be on the marketplace as well?
I don't have the answer to that right now. I think what we would do is probably refer out or provide links to information for renters. It is pretty geared at homeowners who are wanting to take action for this pilot, at least. And I think, it's a pilot, so let's just emphasize the pilot part of that. And one of the goals is to learn what works and what doesn't, and get feedback along the way, and, utilize the partnerships that have been created and fostered through the city and the county's work, the Blue Horizons Project, this group, all the other wonderful groups that exist in our community that care about this type of thing.
Great. We have Steve, followed by Maggie.
Well, Sophie, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. If you can do it. It would be great. These are the kinds of questions about where do I go? How do I do this that just come up all the time. And not just heat pumps, but other related electrification issues. I have a few clarifying questions from your slides, if I may. I think in the beginning you called this an online heat pump marketplace, but your discussion suggested it's going to be more than heat pumps, right? It's going to be like induction cooktop. It's going to run the gamut of electrification to the extent you can. Is that yes?
Yeah, we'll have resource pages on everything electrification. This Electrify Asheville Buncombe County pilot program will focus on heat pumps.
Okay.
So there's, it's sort of, I apologize for the confusion, but we are building out a marketplace that will be able to be accessible by communities outside of Asheville. But the Electrify Asheville Buncombe pilot will live on this platform as well.
Okay. And focus seemed to be on residential homeowners, but I think there was also some reference to businesses as well. So is it just from the consumer end of the point of view? Is it going to include a pitch to larger businesses, commercial and the like?
Not for the pilot program.
Okay. And
yeah, I'm used to saying homes and businesses in one sentence, so that was probably a typo.
Okay.
Speech for me.
All right. Just to be clear, and then establishing this baseline of contractors that you have, is it are you actually going to have like a quote approved list, like you're going to vet these folks and sort of come up with a here's our list of folks that you really ought to choose from, or are you going to or have certain qualifications? How's that going to work? Do you know yet?
Halfway, yes. I think it might be better explained this way. So if I, a homeowner in Buncombe County, am on the platform and I'm interested in a heat pump, when I go to the heat pump section page, I will be able to see that, there is an Electrify Asheville Buncombe pilot, and there are participating preferred contractors, waiting and ready to help me with an installation. And so, yes, in a way, we are working to vet and select preferred contractors.
Yeah.
Have yet to get to that step.
Yeah. And I guess with experience, some people may fall off the list or on the list. I guess that remains to be seen. And on heat pumps, are you talking about just air source or ground source as well?
Air source.
Yeah. And then on home energy audits that you're making available, that Duke Energy does this as well. How is it going to differentiate, or is there going to be reference to the fact that Duke Energy provides these home energy audits?
Duke Energy does not provide an energy audit. They provide what's called a home energy house call. And it is, if you look in the Inflation Reduction Act, there are specific metrics and features that an energy audit has to have. And so when I say energy audit, it is that, meaning, a BPI trained professional comes to your home, runs a diagnostic blower door test, is looking at this checklist of items in your house, making recommendations. So what Duke Home Energy House Call does, and it is a great program, is like a very, very, very light touch. Visit to your house. They leave you with a box of energy and water saving equipment, which is free. It's great, but it doesn't replace an energy audit.
Got it. Good. It all sounds great. Your hopeful timeline for getting this up and running, is there one yet?
So we are nearing the minimum viable product phase of the platform. And our hope is that in the first or second quarter of 2024, we'll have something, but it's still just a little bit up in the air.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
We really hope. Yeah, we really hope to have the state level rebate guidance earlier in 2024, but the latest I've seen is it's being pushed later and later in 2024. And so timing this pilot with that, it may not be tenable. So.
Okay. Good.
Thanks, Steve.
Great. Next, we have Councilwoman Ullman.
Thanks. Sophie, I am so excited about this program, and I feel like recently you came to Blue Horizons Council, and so I've heard it even evolve in the month or two since then, and it's just coming together so nicely. My first thought is actually more towards Bridget. Like, could we get this presentation at the Environment and Safety Committee of Council? Several months ago, I gave a brief snapshot of what we've been building with the Clean Energy Fund, but I think it'd be really awesome for council to be abreast of how exciting this is, especially because sooner than later, we can play a role in really advertising and helping get people on board. So that's something to consider or talk about with Deborah.
Absolutely. I'll put it on the list.
Sweet. The other thing, I just wanted to loop back to an inquiry around, is this available for renters? And kind of Sophie saying, yeah, it's not really looking at that right now. We're really looking to the homeowners. I just want to kind of amplify that, like, I think that's okay. And I think that's good. I think that if we look at our entire housing stock as a monolith and design programs as if it's a monolith, we're going to have limited results. And so getting targeted, we know in the past, government has provided programs that ultimately ended up only being for high income because it was stuff where people could just pay cash. And then we have a lot of programming for low income folks. I see this program as a middle income program, middle class people who own their homes, who want to do this because it's the right thing, because it can save them money, whatever their reasons are, they just need a loan and they need some help. And so I find that exciting that we're getting more sophisticated as a community to not just offer government high income programs, because that's not the right way to do things, but to add to our suite of low income to really get towards that middle income market. I think that we'll see the sophistication of the program design will get us some really good results. So I just wanted to add that into the conversation because I think sometimes it can feel funny to me to feel like we're excluding a group, but I feel like it's that we're targeting to get good impact and adding to other programs that get to other types of neighbors.
Very good. All right. Well, next we have Joel Osgood.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. Just wanted to take a moment to extend my appreciation, like everyone else here, and maybe also leveraging off of Councilwoman Ullman's comment. I guess two parts. How can we help you and Mr. Howden kind of move this forward? Is there anything that we can leverage with our committee? And then secondly, I live in a 1948 little house in West Asheville that if you're looking for anybody to pilot this with in terms of a consumer that owns their own home, that I'm really interested in the energy audit aspect of this. And if there are things that me and my wife can do to improve our home. And this is fantastic. And just, leveraging what Councilwoman Ullman mentioned, it's like, I think as my wife and I have talked about this, it's like, well, we know the things that we need to do, but the things that we don't know. And it would be great to have some tools and understanding and education about how to improve our own efficiencies and sort of adapt our home with, sort of natural gas and things that are organized there currently into something that is much more efficient, and invest in that in the future of our home, which we've been there 20 years and I'd love to be there for the next 40 years. And that's really important to us. So thank you for this program. And I really just appreciate what you and Ken and company are doing. And I guess in short, how can we help you and help your organization and kind of leverage this into a positive for the community?
Thanks, Joel. We'd love to have you be a case study. We are, as we speak today, doing, putting into place a stakeholder engagement plan and identifying the different groups that we are hoping to engage and how. And so I see, this group and the Blue Horizons Project Community Council as being one of the groups that we go to help amplify, the message about the program when it launches, and the resources that we may put out, the newsletters that we may put out in partnership with the Blue Horizons Project. But I think, as always, this committee has served to help amplify the good work being done by other groups in the community that all support the overall sustainability of Asheville in Buncombe County. And so just continuing to play that role, it's in one of the goals of the Community Resilience Working Group that exists within this committee to help support the rollout of this pilot. I'm forgetting the exact verbiage, but I imagine that there will be two-way communication. We'll kind of keep tabs on how the program is going and identify targeted action that this group and others can do to help support.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions, comments from the committee? And if not, I would like to thank you for a truly electrifying presentation, Sophie. And I think, Ken, we missed having you, and you win the award for the most appearances and disappearances ever at SAC meeting. Very impressive.
Yeah, it's nice to be body, but I apologize. And I'll be in a more stable place soon, and really appreciate the feedback as well as the enthusiasm. It really helps us propel forward. It's a fantastic program. Couldn't be more excited about working on it.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And just a word from my own personal experience, I went on my own electrification journey 10 years ago, also in West Asheville, retrofitting a 1928 bungalow, and it took me all the way to Germany to get a Stiebel Eltron heat pump water heater, and most of it was I didn't travel to Germany, but it was made in Germany. But yeah, it was a lot of research, word of mouth, and I think if you had been in existence back then, you would have saved me a lot of time and maybe trouble as well. And as part of my electrification journey, I eat all of my food raw just to for the cause. That's
to save energy.
Yeah, if you want to come over for bacon and eggs, let me know. But if there's nothing else on this topic, we may move from the electric frying pan into the fire, because we have another special guest with us today. And back to our agenda, we have next Zach O'Donnell from a very long acronym, the Southern Blue Ridge Prescribed Burn Association. And for those of you who may not know, we're actually in a drought here in Western North Carolina. I just looked on the drought monitor during our call, and most of Western North Carolina is either in moderate or severe drought. And so anyway, we have a special guest, Zach O'Donnell, who will be telling us about their work, and it's very appropriate for this time. Take it away, Zach, and welcome.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for letting me sit through this meeting. This is my first SAC meeting, and I've learned a lot. Been very, very informative. Appreciate everybody. So yeah, I'm going to jump right into it. My name is Zach O'Donnell. I'm the coordinator for the Southern Blue Ridge Prescribed Burn Association, or the SBR PBA, as we normally refer to it. And I am, just a little background on me. My background primarily is construction management, but I do have some wildfire and prescribed fire experience. And I'm also a firefighter EMT in Yancey County. That's where I'm from, born and raised. Yeah, and I just started this position about 6 months ago, but the organization's been around for about almost 2 years now. So we're still kind of an infantile little, not even really a nonprofit, but we are a community-based organization. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to quickly breeze through the history, funding, and partners of the PBA. What our membership looks like, what resources we offer to our members, a little bit about the PBA community, some basic fire impact and benefit information, and then the specifics of the SBR PBA impact. And then I'll leave time for questions if anybody has any. Next slide, please. And hopefully my internet is okay. I'm in a hotel this evening, so if there's any issues, just raise your hand and stop me. So a little bit about our history, funding, and partners. Like I said, we're about almost 2 years old. We are funded through a federal grant called an LSR grant, Landscape Scale Restoration Grant, and then it's administered by the North Carolina Forest Service and then managed by that organization in the far top left corner, Blue Ridge RC&D Resource Conservation and Development Council. So that's who I report to. Next slide, please. And so these are the counties that we cover. It's 8 counties total, including Buncombe. And we do dip into Rutherford a little bit and up into Watauga some. We're trying to slowly spread out. There's another PBA to the east a little bit, directly to the east, that we share Burke and Caldwell County with. They're called the Piedmont PBA. And then there's a couple more even farther east, or one more farther east, and then there's a couple farther west too. The big one out east is called the Sand Hills PBA. They've been around for about 8 years. They're really well established. Next slide, please. So our membership is really vague, and it's pretty vague for a lot of PBAs around the country, although there are tons of PBAs across the country, especially in the Midwest and the Southwest. And their membership and how they categorize that varies differently, varies from PBA to PBA. But for us, we primarily are comprised of private landowners, the general public, interested in prescribed fire and seeing it implemented in real time, students from community colleges and universities, and then non-government organizations such as some of the partners that I had listed earlier, and then government agencies like the U.S. Forest Service and the North Carolina Forest Service. Next slide, please. So some of the resources that we offer to our membership, primarily we are a training and networking resource for folks. We help connect folks with trainings related to implementing prescribed fire, getting certified as a prescribed burner through the North Carolina Forest Service. We help folks gain experience in implementing their own fire and preparing for it by getting them on the ground, lighting fires, helping other folks do the prep work, and then using our network to connect everybody. And then if a landowner or one of our members wants to implement some prescribed fire on their land and they need more people power to perform it safely and effectively, then we can help connect them with more people who are interested in helping out. And then we do have a growing cache of tools and equipment like blowers, leaf blowers, rakes, drip torches, water backpacks. We've got a plow that we can pull behind a side-by-side and a tractor, things like that. And then a lot of other PBAs have tools and equipment that they'll share with other PBAs in North Carolina, which is great. Next slide, please. This slide should have been probably farther up because this is a little more meta scale of what the PBA is. Primarily, we are a community-based organization, like I said earlier, and our main goal is to help neighbors support their neighbors implement prescribed fire safely and effectively, and creating this community of folks who are invested and interested in seeing prescribed fire for a variety of different reasons implemented in their area. And I do a lot of educational outreach as coordinator, talking with anyone who will listen about the benefits of prescribed fire, and then going to educational events, going to colleges, and there's fire conferences all over the East that talk specifically about the benefits of prescribed fire. And then trying to re-educate and encourage this culture of prescribed fire that has existed for thousands of years. There's a lot of research and evidence that Native Americans and Native cultures in the North America, South America, use prescribed fire, use fire to control their landscape for a wide variety of different reasons. All right, next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about briefly about the fire benefits and impact of prescribed fire and fire in general on the landscape, whether that's prescribed or wildfire. This picture is actually from a unit in McDowell County that the U.S. Forest Service has burned about 3 times over the last 6 years. And it used to look like a lot of our forests around here do, very thick rhododendron, a lot more understory. And since then, after 3 burns over 6 years, the variety of flora and fauna has significantly diversified. It's a really beautiful place to walk. And it's about 4,000 acres total. It's got a really good mix of very fire dependent and fire adapted forest species, trees and shrubs, understory. Next slide, please. So some of the benefits of controlled or prescribed fire, the one that we use, the main talking point that we use a lot for folks as kind of an introduction is wildfire mitigation. And that's kind of the big one, especially for folks who are nervous about fire. And that's primarily through fuel reduction, consuming some of those fuels, the dead and dying fuels that are on the ground that have accumulated from decades of really successful wildfire fighting and suppression by forest fire fighters from the U.S. Forest Service and state agencies. And then wildlife management through improving forage, habitat, and reducing tick populations, ecological restoration, either before or after logging operations, controlling invasive species, whether that's flora or fauna, and then managing disease in forests through the natural process of a fire disturbance. And then timber management, this is a lot more, used a lot more towards off the mountain down east, where they do a lot more crop trees and stuff like that. They'll use fire to improve stand productivity and to prep sites before planting. Next slide, please. So this is a really cool picture. This is the mean fire return interval for the continental United States. So that means, the average frequency at which fire would return to all of, our landscape naturally. And this information was collected through a lot of tree ring testing and sampling, stuff like that. So you can kind of see, I wish I had a more zoomed in image, I apologize, but our little kind of Western North Carolina, it's kind of a mix of all these different year ranges. So the dark blue kind of representing more 40 to 45 year return interval for natural fire. And then, more of an orange kind of mixed in there too, that's more of 2 to 4 years return interval for some of our area. More areas like McDowell County, or Caldwell, they're much more orange. They get a lot more fire. They have a lot more fire dependent and adapted species in their ecosystems. Next slide, please. So this is kind of a good picture that depicts like what a typical prescribed fire looks like in our woody landscape in our closed canopy forests. A really slow, low intensity leaf litter, creeping fire is what we see a lot. Unless you're burning a field and it looks like a field on fire. And the primary goals of this is to just reduce kind of that leaf litter layer, encourage new plant regeneration and growth, and then to kill back some of the rhododendron and mountain laurel that's growing in these areas, which would more historically have been less common because of natural fire returning to the areas in that kind of return interval, whether it's 40 years, every 2 to 4 years, depending on where you are. Next slide, please. And though this is kind of that same area, looking at, you can see even just with a small leaf litter creeping fire, just a little bit of heat has fire girdled, we call it, or killed back a lot of that laurel and rhododendron. And then in the spring, we can see some of it resprouting from the roots and some of that new growth. Next slide, please. And this is another picture of that Singe Cat Ridge area that the U.S. Forest Service has burned. This is I'm using this unit as an example because the PBA hasn't been around long enough. A lot of our units don't have this drastic of a change to it. But this is a really beautiful area that's just fantastic to walk through. Lots of blueberry, blackberry. I mean, the growth is incredible. Next slide, please. And then so the SBR PBA impact specifically, we do a lot of learn and burns where we interact directly with landowners, students, the general public, letting folks use fire in a hands-on way, putting it on the ground in either a field or a forest and seeing what it looks like in action. This was a joint learn and burn with the U.S. Forest Service and the North Carolina Forest Service. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is another learn and burn we did in Madison County. Next slide, please. This was a field. This was one we did in Yancey County. You can see the landowner here, Roger Young, putting fire on the ground himself. Next slide, please. This is another one we did in Yancey County, using this kind of really well-established roadbed as a really solid fire line, and then using a really low intensity fire, under the right weather parameters to achieve their fire goals. Next slide, please. Let's see if these videos will work. Wow. It's really going. This is actually just a little more intense right here than I was expecting. This was actually at my house on my property, with the goal of killing some holly and rhododendron, but it was still kind of within my limits of what I was expecting for flame length and flame intensity. But it was a really successful burn, had really great effects on the laurel and the holly, knocking them back. All right, next slide, please. Wow.
Working on moving past this. Hold on.
All good, thank you.
Is this a separate video?
Yeah, this should be a separate video.
Cool.
If it'll work. Depending on, how well established your fire lines are, what your weather conditions are, you can, use the slope and the gradient of your landscape to achieve a different intensity of fire. This was just a really cool burn we did in Yancey County. Again, with kind of that same goals of reducing the mountain laurel and the rhododendron and clearing some of the woody debris that had accumulated. Next slide, please. Cool. And then this was a really good educational outreach event that we did at that Singe Cat unit with the U.S. Forest Service. We had about 30 folks there, a mix of landowners and really avid hikers from the High Peaks Trail Conservancy, and it was really cool. And that's a lot of what I'm doing right now is more of a community organizer, getting events like this arranged and coordinated. Next slide, please. There's just more of that hike in that beautiful Singe Cat area. Next slide, please. And then this is kind of my bread and butter table setup that I take everywhere. And there's tons of publications like you can see on that table, and digital and physical, about the benefits of prescribed fire for a lot of different reasons, like I mentioned earlier, wildfire mitigation and ecological restoration. Next slide, please. Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Tim did email me a couple specific questions that I didn't address in this presentation, but I'm happy to mention. He asked about the fire risk of different species: oak, poplar, rhododendron. Rhododendron is fairly combustible. It's not super fire adapted as a species. So once it does catch on fire, it does, especially in conditions like we're seeing right now, it can create a really, really hazardous like really, it can be really hazardous to human homes, and especially those like we see in a lot of our communities that are super socked in to these very like wooded areas. North Carolina actually has one of the highest rates of what we call like a wood wildland urban interface, where houses are surrounded by really solid woodland. And then species like oak are super fire adapted. They respond really well to fire. Their acorns actually really benefit from fire for resprouting. And then let's see. Yeah, Tim, what else do you want me to hit on? Do you want me to hit on the other questions we have? I know we're getting kind of running out of time. I'm happy.
Thank you, Zach. That was really great presentation and informative, and I think very timely for where we are right now. I'd like to open it up to questions, but one specific one was about sort of the urban interface. I think a lot of us who live within city limits, I know there are people that are part of SAC that live surrounded by trees, and they may have more concerns and are more urban dwellers like myself. But anyway, I'll open it up to questions. I'm not sure the order. And Maggie, if you are recycling your raised hand, if it was a legacy one, or if you have a new one.
That's a legacy one.
Oh, okay, very good. So I'm not sure who was first, but we'll do free for all. Sophie?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Zachary. This is probably a question of ignorance, but how do you control like what is killed versus what is not burned? Because in looking at those videos, like my understanding is that there's a lot of life underneath that leaf litter. And so I guess what's the decision-making process for justifying like the killing of some life to like promote the benefit of other life in the future? Because I think some people would just misunderstand, like you're burning all this stuff, you're killing, something that's naturally there, when really, I guess humans, at least in my perspective, have created this unnatural environment that we now have to manage because the natural cycles are kind of lost.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we can use a couple different strategies for making sure we don't overkill or like destroy a lot of that, what we call the duff layer, what's beneath the leaf litter. So you've got kind of a leaf litter, woody layer, pine fuels on top, and then a duff layer that really houses a lot, which is kind of like more of an organic layer above your mineral soil. That houses a lot of the microorganisms and like salamanders, even like small invertebrates like that, insects. And especially in the dormant season, which is when we burn a lot right now, a lot of those have kind of, gone down into their winter, where they winterize and survive the winter. So a lot of the microbes and stuff like that and small invertebrates really aren't affected by prescribed fire. And because prescribed fire, like we saw in some of those videos and pictures, is much less intense and much slower than a wildfire, which is less controlled typically, because you can't control for weather parameters like wind and humidity. So wildfires kill a lot more vegetation and animals as well, animal life and microbes. And then I think I answered your question, but I'm not sure. If I didn't, let me know. I also want to apologize. I'm in a hotel with my pregnant wife because she's in how we have a conference tomorrow. So if she wandered by, I apologize about that.
No worries. Thank you.
Next, we have Michael in the queue.
Yeah, thanks very much, Zach. I've been a long time supporter of prescribed burning, and I do now live in an area that's surrounded by forests and farms. And so I guess one question is, do you make a distinction between piles that farmers burn versus the type of prescribed burning that is trying to eliminate an understory? That's one problem we face, is that some of the days the winds just bring all that smoke right into the neighborhood. But we also have forest on our land. And so how do we contact you about whether it makes sense to do prescribed burning in that forest?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a lot of what I do right now is I go and, a landowner will call me, inquire about prescribed fire on their property. I can go out and walk it with them. We can talk about different strategies for, making sure we can do it safely. And then, I can help them pick where the fire line should be. We can establish, what our weather conditions should be. If, their house is westward of the burn unit, we don't want a westward wind, things like that. Really controlling for, making our, the limits for a successful burn very narrow, and then making sure we don't burn unless we meet those limits or we stay within those parameters. And then, we do, we don't do, well, we encourage folks, especially if they have a lot of built up woody debris over time, to do some pile burning first in a really safe way. Make piles of a lot of their debris, burn that first, and then we can do more of a broadcasted burn later. Of course, assuming we don't have a burn ban in effect, and any of this is possible, like we do right now.
Thanks. We have Joel next.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you, Zach, for organizing this presentation, for the great work that you do as a landscape architect professionally. I'm really interested in the ecological restoration and wildlife management aspects of this. We advocate for a lot of clients that we have on really big parcels to do this prescribed burning for restoration, and especially in the kind of grassland, like how much of this area at one point was even some level of grassland species, and trying to advocate for more diversity within that. So my question is, like, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Just go to the website and being able to connect some dots there on some projects that we're working on. Is that the best way to communicate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to the website. My contact information is on there, or if you want my contact information, I can send it to you directly after this. And then, yeah, please reach out. I'd love to come and, meet with anybody who's even curious about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate all your energy towards this.
Yeah. Yeah, great. There were two hands that were up, and Justin and Steve, I don't know if you still have questions or, okay. Well, that was excellent and very, and we got Ashley in the queue.
I'm sorry, I know we're over time. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Zachary and Sophie, for your presentations. And also, I just wanted to really quick give a shout out to the Waste Reduction Subcommittee is trying to host, or is planning on hosting, the first week of December, a free cycle event. So it'll kind of be like a free yard sale where everyone brings clothes, toys, appliances, whatever, just to kind of reduce consumption around holiday seasons, where you can come and like give stuff away and get gifts for people. And so there'll be more information to come about that.
Very good. Thank you for that PSA. If there are no other questions for Zach, we have your contact information, and thanks again for stepping up, on short notice. We serendipitously met at the French Broad River Partnership last week, and Zach told me what he did, and I thought, this is what we need to hear. So good job.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And yeah, I guess one last note about, tagging off that the FBRP, the French Broad River Partners meeting. We focused a lot about community resilience and making sure that our watersheds were healthy. 90% of our watersheds are forested, and making sure that we have healthy forests is really important. And there's a lot of research about, the health and quantity of our water tables related to, the species that are there, and making sure that they are, as native and natural as they could be. And fire is a big part of that.
Good point.
Right, that was the last thing.
No, that was great. And maybe one quick aside, if anyone's interested, there's a professor at Utah State named Joe Wheaton, who's done a lot of work in the Southwest in the role that beavers have in basically suppressing fires by bringing water back to the landscape. You can see these like amazing, I think they call them like emerald ribbons, these areas that just become fire resistant. So that could be part of the solution too. All right, thanks again. And we'll turn it over to Bridget for our meeting schedule.
So this is just real quick recap. At your October retreat, you decided to meet in person for 2024. So our next meeting will be the 3rd January of the month, and it'll be in the first floor conference room of City Hall. So this document just has the dates in there for you or for anybody in the public who wants to make sure they know what our meeting schedule is. And I will send a new calendar invite for everyone that says 2024 meeting. So you can get rid of your 2023 meeting invite and you'll know which one is the right one because it has the right year on it. So
Bridget, will those be monthly or every other month?
Every other month. So we're doing the same thing every other month on the odd numbers. Unless we have a need for a special meeting, which we can always do.
Great. So next time we'll be in person and
Yep. And just for the public's sake, the meetings will still be live streamed onto YouTube, but there will no longer be an opportunity for live public comment virtually. So there will only be the opportunity to either leave a voicemail or written comment ahead of time or to come to the meeting in person to give your comments.
excellent. And that's a good segue. Are there any public comments before we adjourn?
There are no speakers in the queue.
All right. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, everybody, for an excellent meeting and look forward to doing more great work together in 2024. Keep it up.
Yep.
All right.
Happy holidays.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.